Hello, everybody.
I think that Carsten will show up, given that he added the topic of the capture registration.
He just came on.
Oh, hello, Carsten.
Hello.
Hello, Ira.
And we have Ira.
Peter.
Yeah, there's Peter. It is a little, I think we need to make a feature request to the Meet Echo people to put the Jabber users at the bottom so that we can easily see who the actual participants are.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. It's especially confusing in IETF meetings when there's 50 people on or 100 people on.
Right.
Put it in alphabetical order. We probably need a mode which is participants first, and we also need a mode which is recent speakers first.
And it would be cool if the recording wasn't automatically started and the chairs could still, or it would be cool if the chair had some power over the recording.
Yeah,
Yes,
we should be able to edit out all the unacceptable statements that people
Well,
make.
I mean, I think it's intentional that we don't want people to be able to fool with the recordings. So.
Yes, but if it started like at the top of the hour and not recorded the "oh hello, is my microphone on yet?" Going on around before,
Yes.
or actually still, that would be nice.
Yes, and anyone who's been in many meetings with Warren Kumari knows how important it is to cut out the babble at the beginning.
I'm discovering that.
Yeah, Warren is quite a character, and it's fun to chat with him before the meeting, but it's not relevant to the meeting. So, yeah. Anyway, well, we have the usual suspects on, so I suppose we can go ahead and get started. Yeah.
Yep. I think it's my turn this time to do moderation. So hello.
I think so. So let's. I'll let you. I'll mute.
Oh, okay. Hello everyone. This is a CBOR interim meeting, and today we have a few topics on our agenda. The current agenda is, as always, in the minutes being prepared. So please come in there and also add to the minutes if you find the free time there. Two documents are in the working group currently that should be discussed today. One is CBOR network addresses, which has its discussers cleared, so this should manage to move forward. And CBOR file magic, which I kind of lost track of a bit as a shepherd. So I think this can go ahead. We'll talk a bit more there. Then Carsten added the topic of a new request that came to him and me as the experts on the registry for registration from outside the IETF on 1+1 tag. And then if there's no any other business, the only thing left is to remind everyone that cutoff is imminent and where we'll meet again. Comments and topics that people would like to bring up now so that we can plan ahead for them?
I just wanted to let the working group know, the authors already know, but the CBOR network address has a discuss that should be cleared, meaning I have to ping Murray to get him to remove his discuss, and I plan to do that tomorrow. So it should be approved tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, on the topic of network addresses, yeah, Francesca basically said the things that I got wrong. So is there anything left that we should discuss here? And are there any comments that that should be brought up? I've briefly skimmed through them, and I found nothing that doesn't look like it's on the right track.
And I have to correct myself. I was thinking of a core document, so never mind that one. So there is no discusses, and I just have to check with Ben on this document. But if I don't get any answer, then yeah, then it's on me to go through the thread, and I haven't done so yet because yeah, it's a bit split, so it's a bit hard to follow. But I'll do that as soon as possible. And
Okay.
Michael, you should have corrected me.
Going to as the shepherd
Exactly
for
the
it.
same confusion you have, Francesca. So sorry about that.
It's all good.
There were some discuss that had happened that I didn't know about. That's all.
Okay, if we don't have any more documents we can confuse this with, I'd go over to FileMagick. This has been sitting in the working group last call for actually a few months now, mainly because there was a bit of a lack of in working group reviews. More precisely, I missed that John provided a review, so the delay is probably on me. I've looked through the reviews that have come in, both from John inside the working group and from Bernarda Boba, from as has been requested as an art review, and a few comments from Dale on inside that thread. And to me, it looks very much like there is the, I dare say, typical weak support but no objections to the document. So if no, yeah, Carsten.
Yeah, I wanted to let you do your summary first, but I think you're almost done. So yeah, I have a pretty strong support for this document, which is one of the reasons I'm now on the author list. So we had a lot of Brownian motion, and that's great, and the document is better. But what we haven't actually done is the last round of editorial combing, and we probably need to find 2 hours or so before Monday to actually do that and finish a version that we actually can send to the ISG.
But this will be really just editorial changes, like rephrasing parts and updating references and kind of getting into shape, but not changing anything substantial, right?
No technical changes, just making sure that what's there can actually be understood, by people who weren't present during the discussion.
Okay. Either way, with the state of the comments, I think that we can conclude the working group last call positively. You still do your update, and then I'll update the Shepherd write-up as soon, or I'll finish the Shepherd write-up as soon as you have that version uploaded. Is that fine with everyone? Michael?
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I've discovered you just can't click unmute and then say yes and then mute again because it's too short.
Okay. Well then, next item on the list is the capture registration request. Carsten, do you want to say a few words there, or shall I summarize the state of what they are doing? And then you go on to why you think it's a good idea.
Please do.
Okay, so the capture document is asking for, and I'm posting the link in the chat again, minutes too, is describing a way to, is describing a tag that indicates that what is tagged is a group of positional and keyword arguments. Many programming languages have a way of giving arguments to a function that says argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, and then go over to indicating explicitly more of some of the more exotic arguments. So that might be, they probably have a better example than I can come up with on short notice. That can be X, Y, and Z coordinate as positional arguments, and then a Boolean argument whether or not this vector is to be normalized. That kind of arguments. The tag they introduced says that the payload of the tag is a 2-element array. The first element of that is an array of positional arguments, and the second is a map of keyword arguments. And this is common through several languages, and they describe that they like to use it also in situations where they have a bit of more volume of data coming through. So they are asking for a 1+1 tag. Carsten, they've been in a bit of discussion with you. I'm personally not very sure whether a 1+1 is really what we should go for, but you probably have a more elaborate opinion here.
Yeah, so I think that the 1+1 thing is a boundary case. The discussions that we had were mostly about how exactly should this be phrased. I mean, the basic mechanism of having argument lists that contain an array and a dictionary is pretty common. So that there's little question that this is a useful tag. Calling it capture is maybe a little bit specific to the platform it came from. I forget what platform it was. It's one I'm not using all the time, but yeah, if it's what they are going to use first, maybe they get the right to name it, and so that's okay. Whether it's 1+1 or 1+ more depends a bit on how you actually use it. And if you look at procedure calls in many environments, these often have pretty short arguments. So even if it's not a constrained environment, it may be worth saving that byte. But it's not a strong argument for going for 1+1. I think it's a borderline, and I'm a little bit on the side of saying, okay, that's a legitimate request from a specific platform that is not entirely exotic. So maybe we should go for it. On the other hand, maybe we should have another planning session. How many tags are we spending out of which space? And is it maybe time to restrict the flow of tags a little bit, or can we actually be more liberal? That's maybe one meta thing we should be doing. So let me just pull up the numbers here. So in the CodeMD, I have put in my tag report, and we see that we have used up 26%, 27% of the 1+1 range. We have several proposals out there that would take sizable chunks out of that. So we may be up to 40% within a year or so. For instance, CBOR-PACT is actually using a sizable chunk of 1+1 tags. But we haven't even reached 50%, and we are close to the 10-year milestone for CBOR. So it's not like we are overspending at the moment, but of course, yeah, there are only 170 bullets we have left. So yeah, is this one of those 170? That's really the question.
In the discussions that you've had with the authors, did the topic come up of whether this would be a case where an application would already know from the context anyway what is in there and thus not always use the tag?
No, that did not come up. So maybe that's actually a question we could bring up, because I mean, an unwrapped tag is still a very useful thing to have, and then of course we wouldn't need a 1+1.
And if it is used in more exotic cases where it's not big data coming in, then maybe it will still be tagged there if it comes up sporadically.
Yeah, but that's actually a question. Maybe you can phrase that better than I can. So let's have a quick discussion with the guy whose name I forget at the moment, and see what exactly the context is in which this occurs.
That's definitely something we can and should do. So just for kind of to get a bit of more input to that usage constraints, do people around the group have the impression that we might run short of tags due to registration that they are aware of but have not been filed yet? Like, do you have projects in the pipeline where you would want another chunk of the 1+1 space, or just expect to register a few more over the next years?
Yeah, there's one more proposal which is coming from the, I think, Haskell community, some functional language, where they essentially need a tag to differentiate between different, otherwise structurally identical data structures. And they are definitely going to use use these tags on the wire. So that's a place where the answer to Christian's question would be yes, it makes a difference. And so the main question there is, how many 1+1 tags do they actually need? Because at some point, of course, the likelihood of a data structure being used, I mean, if you don't really need one for 15 different structures. So at some point they can go to a 1+2. And that's actually what the current proposal does. So that's one thing I really need to get to complete, because the discussion has been out there for a while. But it's an obvious thing that makes sense in a language where you would have the compiler assign numbers to these different. We essentially have name equivalents and not structural equivalents, and want the compiler to compile these names into short identifiers. So that's maybe another 16 or so. Maybe 7 is enough.
Okay, thank you. More users somewhere out in the pipeline? Okay. Not hearing anyone speak up, and please, if you don't want to mention it here, you can always also come to the mailing list and bring this up later. Nothing is closing here right now. But at least we have now a plan to go forward. And with that, I'd like to go to the next item on the list. That is planning for next CBOR events. So the big thing coming up is, of course, IETF-112. We have a slot on Thursday, 14:30 UTC. There's the submission cutoff in 5 days from now, so everyone who wants to update their documents, please be aware of this. And interims we will resume only after IETF-112. And there we should coordinate a bit with the other groups that also have 2 bi-weekly interims. Core is planning to do theirs around February 2nd, plus minus all of 14 days. I haven't checked yet whether this is keeping with the current cadence or whether this is taking the year boundary as a occasion to break that. Do Does any of you have conflicts that we should consider that are not core on the other week? So that is especially asking for conflicts that we should consider that would make it difficult to keep using the 1600 Central European time slot that we have right now. I'm giving this a minute, assuming that some people check this in their actual calendars.
Yeah, while people are checking, do we really have to wait for February?
No, that's just the reference date that I got from Marco, and
Yeah.
I have mapped this back yet through the calendar down to December and yet January. This is just the kind of the representative of the days model of 14 days. Ira?
Yes, my brain just connected. It's too many meetings already this morning. Were you asking if we had conflicts in the opposite week to the biweekly cycle? Because yes, I have a standing one I cannot possibly escape. It's a primary SAE vehicle security call.
Okay. And that is staying with the biweekly schedule across the change of the year as well. So keeping the cadence that we have now.
Yeah, keeping with the cadence we have now would be important. This meeting has been extant since 2012.
Okay. Thank you. I think I'll try to make that to keep that possible.
Yeah, going back to when we should resume, of course, we want to resume only after Thanksgiving, but I think we should at least have a December and maybe 2 January slots.
So my question would be, who else do you know is doing recurring meetings except for core? I know that some working groups are having meeting interims every once in a while, but not recurring. Does anybody know? Unfortunately, I cannot look at the previous at the calendar for previous meetings, only for
So I
coming
No, you
think that
actually,
I see OAuth having regularly meetings on today even, and TAPS is today, and my impression is there's a couple other working groups that intend to do that kind of pattern.
Yeah, there's some other routing ones too that
I
do
was
it.
going to
I
mention OAuth
don't,
and
I don't know
TAPS
that they.
also.
Yeah, I don't know how much they conflict with these.
Francesca, why are you asking? Let's start with that.
No, just to figure out that we have everything covered in terms of conflicts. Like, I don't know who
okay.
else is trying to, yeah.
Yep.
And I know the usual suspects, but I don't know. So it's good to know, like, those that I, like in other areas, for example, I don't really follow. Sean, you were saying, sorry, I didn't understand you.
Some routing groups that meet on a regular basis too, but I don't think they're going to. Any of the constituencies in those two groups overlap. So I think you're fine.
Yeah, that's why I was asking why you were asking, to make sure. If it's just for conflicts, I think we're pretty much set, because we haven't had any other working groups meeting at the same time that we were. If we continue our usual time, I think we're pretty safe.
yeah, so I think LPWAN has had regular meetings for a while, but not bi-weekly. And we may also consider going to a 4-week cadence, which I mean, during the holidays, that's a natural outcome anyway.
Yeah, so
But
we've
there are some, not this working group, but other working groups. I see they schedule on top of each other, so it's good that we don't do that. But yeah, it's not a given apparently that the chairs check that. So yeah.
Yeah, I put the pointer to the past meeting page in the chat, so you actually can have a look at who met, at least during the year. Oh, it actually goes back all the time. Goes to 1991. Okay. Yeah. So
I didn't know you were able to do that. Thank you.
great data source.
going to 4-week cadence is something that I agree we should consider, especially given that we've completed the last some of the more recent meetings in about half an hour. So
Yeah. Careful.
just that we
I think CDDL 2.0 is really coming up with a lot of force. You may not see very much of that yet, but I would expect us to spend a lot of time on that in the first few months of 2022.
yeah. So what I'm suggesting here is that we kind of keep the calendar slots occupied for the bi-weekly meetings. But if it turns out that for some time we keep underusing the hour, and I think it's convenient to bulk things up so that we don't have too much say message overhead in terms of joining meetings, etc. Then we can start skipping some of these meetings if the pressure of things to discuss goes under some low watermark, and still be prepared to go to a bi-weekly cadence as soon as things come up.
I agree with that. I would say that I would rather have meetings that finish in half an hour and yet keep us moving every couple of weeks than to drop it off unless we really get to where we have nothing to talk about.
Swan.
Ara?
Yes, I would agree that having more frequent and therefore more responsive to things that pop up meetings is almost always better, even if sometimes they're short meetings. Short meetings are fine, then you get a break before yet another meeting.
Okay. Sean, you had your hand up?
Down. It's mostly like maybe you could go 30 minutes as opposed to an hour, but it's better probably to have an hour blocked off and be shorter because then people get free time as opposed to like, oh, we're going to run longer, because people will just schedule in the other 30 minutes. And as Barry and others have said, moving the work forward is the important part.
I actually like meetings that are scheduled for 1 hour and run 30 minutes because I can use the other 30 minutes to actually work on my actions. So that's really a useful device in a time when all your slots are filled with some stuff.
Okay, that sounds like good support for just sticking with bi-weekly, even if we underuse them. Good. I see someone typing up one more item for the agenda.
I just wanted to remind the working group that on tomorrow's telechat, the CDDL control document is scheduled, and it's all green so far. So that's great, but there is a number of people who haven't commented yet. Ben is one. So so we'll see what happens. But we're also in ISG retreat, virtual ISG retreat this week, so we're all a bit slow. But yeah, this is we'll have some update tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like Ira's pointer to the COSWID work and so on. There's lots of stuff using CBOR in various places, and having something like a CBOR State of the Union occasionally is maybe something we should be planning for. So we have a standing item used in other SDOs, but we don't have an item used in our own SDO, and we probably should start doing that.
Yep, I'll update the template. Okay, any other business? Ira? Ira, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
I was waiting to be recognized and
Oh.
hitting the wrong buttons.
Okay.
Sorry. CDDL, just as a data point, Henk Burkholz injected a really good topic in last week's Trusted Computing Group virtual face-to-face, and we diverted our usual joint session with Global Platform and the mobile work groups in TCG pretty much entirely to discussion of work towards a CDDL IDL and integration possible with multiple build tools, compilers, etc. And we thought it would be an interesting topic, and maybe we would get more than our usual 5 or 6 people, and instead we got 19, and we had people from 5 SDOs and from MITRE and from Microsoft Research, people who don't usually show up at TCG meetings. And I wanted to say that there is a great deal of interest in an improving tool chain for CBOR and CDDL for a number of projects in other SDOs.
That means that there will hopefully also to anything that is CDDL2 related.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the activity I was not talking about because it's officially confidential, but yeah, there is a lot of force right at the moment moving things forward.
Great. Anything more, Carsten?
Not right now.
Okay. Oh. Asking anyone what Carsten had his microphone open.
Yeah, I'm too slow unmuting, so given that
Yeah, sure.
I have a reasonably quiet setup here, I thought I could keep it on.
Okay. With that, I think we're done today. Thank you everyone for your input and your work on the document. And looking forward to seeing you in virtual where actually. Anyway, at IETF 112.
See everybody at IETF 112. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks everyone for taking notes.